Hello, this is Philippe. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a latex prosthetic pulled from a silicone mold using Graftobian clear latex. Here is the end result with the prosthetic applied. She's only 6 years old. Her name is Avery. As you can tell, the prosthetic piece is too big, but we'll try to make this work. She approves. I start to apply prosthetic to the area where the prosthetic piece is going to lay down. Now, I don't want to overdo it with prosthetic because the idea is to make it nice and tacky so that prosthetic piece will stay. I used the blow dryer with the cool setting on to help accelerate the drying to make that area of her face that has the prosthetic nice and tacky. I now apply the prosthetic piece, and if you notice, when I apply the lower part of the mouth, if I have a prosthetic piece, I like for it to overlap the upper lip just slightly so that way her real lower lip doesn't show. I'm now using prosthetic to help blend the edges, but she's so tiny that I couldn't see the bottom part of her chin, so I should have blended that much better. I also want to make note when I was doing her makeup that I wore a mask and a face shield, and that face shield was fogging up, so I wasn't able to see clearly. Again, I'm using a blow dryer to help accelerate the drying, always having the cool setting on when using the blow dryer around her face. I'm now going in with a clear latex by Graftobian to help blend those edges. Again, I should have applied this to her lower chin. I hope she doesn't fire me. I'm now going in with some airbrush makeup. I'm using Graftobian FX Air. Now, I don't want full coverage. I want her underlining pigment to show through. The color that I'm using is Frankie Gray. The color that I'm using now is a maroon color. Now, if you notice, I don't use too much makeup, and I also don't use too much black. Actually, I don't use much black at all, and I'll explain that later on. At this point, I'm just depositing color where I want shadows. Okay, so I don't use black too much because sometimes it'll just make that part of the face look really heavy, and if you use too much black, it can give it a two-tone look, and it can also make it look too cartoonish. With black colors, use it, don't abuse it. When I do use black colors, sometimes I'll mix it in with an existing color that I'm working with, either a maroon, a red, and I use it to darken up that color. If you notice, I'm not painting smooth or straight lines. I'm doing kind of sporadic, kind of scattered technique. I'm not worried about detail. I'm just depositing color. Now, if you notice with the brush that I was using, the same brush that I was depositing color with, I was also using it to soften it up. Now, what I do is when I soften it, I want to make sure that after I deposit color that I wipe that brush with a tissue to help wipe off the excess makeup. So that way I'm able to blend. Because if you don't wipe off that excess makeup, you'll go from blending to depositing color. And you don't want to do that because you'll end up with an area that has too much makeup. I've been using my fingers to help blend and soften up certain areas. I'm applying some makeup around the neck. Again, she's a zombie, so we're just depositing colors, and sometimes when I deposit color, I do it in a soft, using it like a softer technique. I'm not too concerned about detail. So I'm just depositing color where I want shadows. I now powder it with a translucent powder by Graftobian. Now pay attention to what I've done so far. I'm using very little cream color on the face because if I use too much, it'll give it a wet look and I won't be able to paint over it. Light layers is the key. With light layers, you'll be able to get greater detail. I'm applying a little bit of white to help add some highlighting, and I soften it up with my brush. I now use an eyeshadow brush to soften it up. But you have to remember this brush is very porous and will pick up color really quick, so make sure to wipe it each time you blend, because if you don't, you're not going to blend. You're going to start depositing color from another area where you were trying to blend. And I go very lightly over her teeth, and notice how very little makeup I used and how her teeth just popped. It just came alive. You don't need to use that much makeup. Now you can tell from my palette when I'm picking up color, I'm just skimming. Right now I'm using a fine tip brush to kind of draw erratic lines to the face, like wrinkles. Again, I'm not painting smooth or straight lines. These are like wrinkles on the face to show some aging, even though she's only 6 years old. I'm adding some crow's feet to her eyes. So if you notice, when I'm painting over the areas that were soft, it adds depth and contrast. The one thing about using a fine tip brush is that you'll run out of color really quick, so you have to keep on reapplying color. So now I'm using an eyeshadow brush to help soften it up. And look how I soften it up, but I'm still able to retain detail. If you're doing this, you could soften it up with a eyeshadow brush as much or as little as you want. So if you notice around the nose in certain areas how it kind of gives it almost like an airbrush look. Right now I'm going around the teeth area. Again, I'm just depositing color. I'm not worried too much about detail. I'm going to soften that up. And And look at how I soften it. It's nothing technical here. Anyone could do this. I mean, I'm using my fingers and using my brush. The key is to do light layers so that way you're able to paint over. See, I soften it up. So when I soften it up like that, I'm now able to paint over it. Either with more cream color. In this case, I'll be going over it with some alcohol activated colors. So I powder it with a translucent color. Actually, it's not really a color, it's just a translucent powder, setting powder by Graftobian. So this technique that I'm using, you know, let's say you put on a prosthetic piece and it's not quite blending. You could disguise it by adding little lines here and there. But still, that's no excuse for not blending your prosthetic better. I should have blended that chin a whole lot better. My bad. So now I'm applying some color to her neck. And I'm going to soften it up with, I think it's my eyeshadow brush. Now it's the big powder brush. So I was wondering when I was going to get to the nose. But that nose should have used some more makeup around the nostril area. If you notice, I like to powder over and over to make sure that area where I applied makeup doesn't move. Right now I'm going in with FX Air alcohol palettes by Graftobian. These are activated by 99% alcohol. And I like these alcohol palettes because they're really rich in color. And you can also build up on it. And I also like it because it's very liquidy, so you can get into those little crevices and get more detail. If you notice with the alcohol paint, I'm able to get finer lines. See how it's popping a little bit? How whenever you paint over an area that's kind of soft, we're adding depth and contrast. Contrasting colors, light and dark, depth and contrast is the key. Now, when I think of depth, I also think of bokeh in photography. What is bokeh? Bokeh is kind of like whenever have you ever seen a photo of an insect and that insect is crystal clear and the background's blurry? That's called bokeh. Okay, so it's kind of the same when I do this type of makeup. You get the background that's blurry and kind of soft, and then on the surface you paint over it with something harder so it really pops. If you notice off to the left, you can see my plastic face shield that I used. I wore 2 masks and a face shield, and that face shield was fogging up so I couldn't see too good. I'm adding a little bit detail. Again, I want to finish this up because Avery's been here long enough and her patience may be wearing down. Right now I'm painting inside her lower lip so it doesn't show. Now I couldn't really paint over her eyes because she was squinting too much, but that's okay. You want to do makeup within their comfort zone, and she's only 6 years old. And she was a real trooper at this. She was very professional for her age. If you notice, I forgot to put makeup on her ears, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to cover up her ears with her hair. Now at this point I could have used gel or a grease or a pomade to wet her hair, but I just used water because the look that I need is not long term. She's done, and here she is eating gummy bears. She looks adorable, even though she's a zombie. Thank you for watching, and please share with your friends. Follow me on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and please like and subscribe to my channel. Again, thank you for watching.